Hey everybody, Rachel Bryant, your host for the RevRoom, brought to you by Inverta. And I'm really excited about today's episode. Hopefully you are too. And please don't roll your eyes. Don't give me a big sigh, but we're going to talk planning. I know it's that time of year. Everybody dreads it. Oh, okay. We're all breathing together. It's okay. Because we're here to help you. And I have my colleague and friend, Danielle Contreras, on the episode today. And she is going to talk about all the things that you need, you guys, this isn't hard. Okay. We can help you for one, and we're going to help you today. We're going to give you some tools. We have some templates. And we're going to give you some advice on how to just plan better for the fiscal year so that you can go into the year and stop being just a promotional factory, doing random acts of marketing, promoting a bunch of stuff, hoping it all works. Let's do things that are really impactful to the business. So thank you for listening. Thanks for tuning in. And I hope you enjoy this episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the RevRoom podcast. So excited to have you on today. We're going to talk about all things planning for marketing. We're in that season of marketing planning. It is here. We're recording this podcast towards the end of September 2025. Can you believe it, Danielle? It's already officially fall here on the calendar. So yeah, it's time for planning for next year, especially if your fiscal year starts January 1st. You're doing that. You're like in the mud right now. And I'm sure rolling your eyes, as most marketers do, right? And we'll talk a lot about that, Danielle. So Danielle Contreras is here from Inverta. She's our planning practice lead here at Inverta. So we're going to hear from her about how we take teams through planning and think about it and why it's so difficult and how we can reframe what that looks like so that we are owning that marketing plan instead of it owning us and it feeling so daunting. So Danielle, welcome. Introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know a little bit about you.
Yeah, great. Thanks. I've been with Inverta for 6 years, which means I've been working with organizations of all sizes and marketing leaders on their marketing planning in particular, and developing frameworks and iterating on them so that they can be seen as a strategic driver in their organization and connecting all their marketing efforts back to revenue. So when we think about planning at Inverta, we're thinking about revenue generating planning for demand gen teams primarily. So that's what I've been working on, and excited to be here today and talk about that with you.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Danielle, for being on today, and perfect timing, obviously, to be here as all these teams are starting to get working on these things. Full disclosure, I've actually helped you with delivering dynamic planning and campaign planning, both to customers of ours and clients of ours. I've also been on the receiving end of that planning motion, having been a client of Inverta's several years ago, and having gone through that. So I've been in the slog with the team here too. So excited to share some learnings there as well with everybody. So Danielle, let's just start with it. Why does everybody roll their eyes when we start to talk about, okay, it's time to plan for next fiscal year?
I think it's just because most plans don't survive the first quarter. They're either last year's plan with bigger numbers, or it becomes a guessing exercise. And people just kind of wait around for sales and finance to give the inputs that they're looking for. But, for me, I love planning. I think when done well, it creates clarity, collaboration, and commitment, and it aligns people and gives them focus, which really frees teams to be really creative. And planning isn't about being perfect. That's something we always say in Inverta, and we call it dynamic planning because of that. We want it to evolve with the business and the market. And so the point for planning is, like, you don't have to be right on day one. It's create a process that keeps you aligned over time and gives your team a systematic way of, being committed to a direction that you're going to be moving in your organization.
Yeah. I think that's a really great point, though, is this idea that we go through all this work, all this rigor, all the spreadsheets, all the decks, like all the things you do over the next 2 to 3 months. And by the time we get to, like March, we've gone through sales kickoff. We've done all the big, heavy lifting things for this, gigantic kickoff to the annual year. And then all of a sudden we're just kind of back to doing the same old things we've always done. And it gets kind of daunting. And you're like, do we have to do this again? Right. So, like, what is it? What's different about what we are going to talk about today, Danielle, that makes it
Mhm.
different for teams who plan in the fashion that we're going to talk through, like with the revenue maps and really aligning to more business objectives, as opposed to more just building promotional plans?
Right. I mean, I think you're nailing it. Like, I think what happens is like teams that kind of start to think, well, this is just a reporting exercise and we're just filling in templates, we're pulling reports, we're trying to get to these numbers and hit them. But the teams that use it strategically, they treat it as a leadership exercise and they use
Mm.
planning to generate alignment, um, helps them figure out what trade-offs they're going to make, and they connect all their work back to the business. And so that shift from reporting to leading, I think makes all the difference. And that's what we try to teach teams to do.
So you run a lot of workshops with our clients and even, offsite at some conferences, marketing conferences and things like that. Tell me
Mhm.
a little bit, like, what are the
Yeah.
biggest frustrations that you hear from
Mhm.
marketing leaders as they go into the planning process or they're trying to get through that planning process?
Yeah, I think the number one thing we kept hearing is we feel like we're guessing and we're being asked to deliver on these goals, but we don't have the right inputs or we don't know what segments or targets they should really be focusing on. So we're making a lot of assumptions, and that
Hmm.
lack of clarity is really what's driving a lot of the frustration we saw.
Yeah. Yeah. Which causes a lot of that breakdown. So, what should they know? Like, what are the types of data points that marketing teams really need to focus on trying to get in order to make a great annual plan or dynamic planning
Mhm.
for their upcoming year? Like, what are those sorts of things in the conversations and with whom do they need to be
Yes.
having them?
Yeah, that's really what we started building into our like certification process was really leaning into drive discovery in your organization. And so most teams are handed this top line revenue goal and a funnel model and they're told go plan. But
Yeah.
a funnel is just math and it doesn't tell you where growth will come from or what's realistic by segment. So marketers either inflate numbers or retreat into their channel silos and just start building campaigns. And so why they feel like they're guessing is because they're really missing the context. And so we want them to start asking questions like which segments are expected to deliver the most growth? What ACV or LTV assumptions is leadership making? And
Mm.
where deals get stuck. So it's really getting connected to the business. So starting with your board and your CEO, meeting with the CFO, meeting with sales, and kind of bringing all of these teams together, including product, so that you really understand the business before you jump into planning.
I mean, this is so crucial. And I think what you're saying is a lot of the myths that most marketing leaders and not just CMOs, I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about like that VP level. If you're on
Yeah.
a leadership team in marketing organization, like it is really your responsibility to start
Mhm.
driving those collaborative conversations
Yeah.
across the organization. And I think what you and I have experienced and the reason we help so many companies is that has broken down. We've gone into these silos and we think maybe
Well,
we aren't sometimes, but we really don't reach across and have those conversations. There's
yeah.
not, marketing isn't in the business planning, which is a
Mhm.
problem. And we need to proactively make sure we're in that discussion.
Yes.
We have to be able to talk to the CFO and understand, like, what is the 5-year plan for an
Mhm.
organization? Where do we plan to get our revenue? They have at least an idea of what that is. And if
Yes.
we're looking out 12 months, we should be able to do that. I think we've gotten into this sort of mode. I saw a post on LinkedIn the other day, and I thought it was so that what he said, and I don't, maybe I'll post a link to the post in the show notes, but it really
Yeah.
resonated with me. Like marketing has become like a builder of promotional plans, and I had said
Yeah.
that earlier, but like that's so true, isn't it? We just get into this mode of like, oh, we're gonna promote this, we're gonna promote that, we're gonna
Mhm.
promote this. It's like now. What happened to pricing? What happened to product? What happened to like being strategic
Yes.
about being a part of the business planning and strategic about what we're doing in the market and how we show up?
Yeah, I love that you said that because it is one of the pitfalls of or planning is you become a promotion factory and then you're viewed that way in your organization. It's like,
Yes.
what's marketing getting out there? The questions that they're going to be asking is, what campaign are you running? And so it's really focused more on like the message and the brand. And so if we want to be more strategic and seen as strategic in the organization and be a driver of revenue, like we're being held accountable for, yeah, we really need to be the ones connecting those teams, speaking the languages, that each of these functions speak in their organization and understand the right questions to ask. So I love that because I do feel like, we've kind of trained ourselves out of having a seat at the table
Yeah.
to be viewed as anything other than just, oh, blast the female out or get those ads running on LinkedIn. So I
Yes.
love that.
Yes. That's kind of what we've become, right? Like, here, just churn out this stuff. And like, yes, like that promotional factory.
Mhm.
Mm. So you talked a little bit about some of the information we might need to do some of the planning, but what are some of the specific questions that marketers should be asking the business as they get into planning?
Yeah. I mean, here's a few. So for sales, you'd want to ask them like what accounts or what segments are moving the fastest? Where are we losing? To finance, ask them like where do we have the strongest ACV and LTV profile? What assumptions are baked into forecasts? Because like you said, they have a plan. They're moving towards the direction they have forecasted what they are expecting the business to deliver and where. Asking leadership, what bets are non-negotiable this year? Look beyond that revenue number they've given you and start to really ask like what most important or how are you showing up in market? Um, where are we in product maturity as well? Like, are we in a declining market? Are we in a growth market? Are we reinventing our products? And then speaking of product, like ask them questions too. Like, are there any white space opportunities? Are there going to be, new iterations of the product coming out that we're going to communicate? But these are the questions that open the door to better inputs and better plans. So
Yeah.
you might not change the top line goal, but you could really shape how you go after it. And that's where credibility starts, by showing that you understand how the business actually makes money and how marketing can contribute to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. I think I've even said this on the podcast before. So, frequent listeners will have heard me say this, but one of the things when I mentor, and talk to, rising marketing leaders is I tell them, I say, you need to be able to speak finance. Like you need to
Yeah.
be able to speak CFO language. And that language is different than what
Yeah.
marketers know and have like been talking about for probably the last 15 years or so. And so
Yes.
like those who are growing in their career haven't really experienced that. And so you need to be able to speak that with the CFO. What is important to them?
Mhm.
And by the way, not everyone is not every CFO is created equal. So but you need to be able to understand like what's the difference between revenue and EBITDA and like all those sorts of things that you need
Yeah.
to know and be able to speak that language with them. And I think what you're saying is really smart because that's how we get from, being a promotional factory, as we talked about,
Mhm.
to a strategic partner in the business, but also being able to level up like ideas. Like we
Yeah.
are a hugely creative function inside the organization. We, the marketers, are, super creative and we're looked at that way, but we don't
Yeah.
really drive creative thought around how do we build the business. We're
Yes.
always building creative things about the promotion of the business. So like, yeah,
It's true.
getting to that point would be really, really like just fundamentally like a changing like moment for us as marketers for sure.
Right. And I think creativity is fueled by curiosity. And so, like, it's a learning opportunity, right? To connect
Yeah.
to different parts of your organization. And every organization, like, what we get the benefit of seeing is everyone tracked it differently. Like, how is new business tracked? What are the expansion opportunities that you can actually go after because of the way your business is really recording that? So, operationally,
Yes.
understanding not just the finance, but also like like what data are they using and how are they looking at it and what do the inputs mean? And you don't have to know math. Like I am terrible and I still, but being able to ask the right questions can help you, work with someone who maybe understands the numbers and then can explain, what they really mean. So yeah, you don't have to be a math wizard or you have, an MA in finance to ask the questions and get the information that can really help you be more strategic.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I have found in my past life, and I know you've found this as well, is, being really clear with sales when you're having the
Mhm.
conversations with them too about one, you know, yes, you're building a rapport and a partnership with them,
Yes.
but you're not taking orders, right? Like, oh, what would you like to see us do? That's fine. Like, that's a fine bridge building
Yeah.
exercise, between you. But also, to me, one of the bigger questions I always ask them that kind of made it go, was things that make you go, right? Like, okay, um, is where do you not need help from marketing? Right?
Mm.
Like they don't support sales can handle some things in
Yeah.
their targets and in their goals without you touching them. I mean, sales sheets and things like that, sure. but from a promotional or strategic standpoint, they may
Mhm.
not need any help from marketing. So like where do we say, hey, here are some things that you can just sort of leave alone, but here are the things we really need doubled down on. I can't do my job successfully as a salesperson if I don't
Mm.
have support from marketing in this area.
No, I love that guidance. I think that makes a lot of sense because it kind of goes to one of the core parts of our planning process is it's collaborative, right? You need to pull in the right players. And when they have skin in the game, they're going to support and defend your plan too. And then they also know how they're going to be supported by marketing. So it's just as important to know what you're not doing and what you're responsible for, as you know, to be able to present exactly what you're going to be doing. So I think that's really good advice. And I think a lot of people take that for granted is there's an opportunity with the plan to make the trade-offs that you need to make so that you guys have
Yeah.
focus.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about some of the tools that we utilize with teams in the planning. So, one of the tools that we utilize, I know, is the marketing plan on a page. And can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about what that is and what that captures and is able to communicate?
Yeah, so we do have tools and templates. So it's kind of funny that we say don't just fill out templates by yourself, but really it's
Yeah.
to give structure to your meetings and help you identify what information you need to pull from a company and from your different colleagues. And so what we do is the plan on a page is really telling you what you're trying to achieve. It's setting that initial direction. So what are the high level initiatives that marketing is going to be responsible for and making sure that those are connected to the business objectives and revenue goals. And then it also, shows like budget assumption and marketing approaches that you're going to employ. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't really give you information on like what types of campaigns you're running and what segments are associated to that, and what timeline. So we really have three main components. So plan on a page is what are you trying to achieve? And then we introduced a revenue map, which allows you to translate that plan into where is revenue coming from. So which segment, which accounts or scenarios are going to be the most impactful, and then aligning those to the marketing strategies you'll use. And then the last piece that we present in this like planning, annual planning, is a campaign timeline. So then taking your revenue maps, each initiative should have one, and looking across those to really sequence a campaign timeline. So what you really end up with is your plan, which is your priorities, your map, which is your paths to revenue, and a timeline is the when and the who. So you really move from like big goals to actionable campaigns.
Mm. Now, I know you've said coming away from some of the workshops that you've done,
Mhm.
that middle piece, the revenue map that
Yes.
you described, really creates these aha moments for people. Can you talk a little bit about that? What have you heard from people that have gone through that exercise with you and had those moments?
Yeah, it was really crazy to see like the reactions to it because people were like, oh my gosh, this is like the bridge, the missing piece that we just never thought about. And so, and it's because it's connecting those business goals to execution. So most teams stop at broad campaigns. We're going to run demand gen. It's
Mhm.
going to go to everyone. Or we're going to do ABM for just this particular segment. Um, but they were really having a hard time kind of communicating across their teams, like, how are we going to actually achieve revenue? Like, how are their efforts contributing to an overall plan? How are we making sure we have distinct segments and distinct goals and can track those? And so the real breakthrough came from, okay, we can use this account and pipeline data to outline distinct paths to revenue. So it just became a really clear snapshot way for teams to really work together and use the data that they have, map out scenarios, and they could see clearly really where marketing can accelerate revenue, maybe close gaps. And so that was really that aha moment with going, instead of going from plan on a page straight to campaign, and planning those, they were starting to use the data and really become data-driven marketers to determine how they could split up their ICP into more meaningful marketing motions.
That's awesome. Do you have any like examples, like like maybe a project you've worked on recently or a client we've worked with,
Yeah,
to kind of show how that strategy is, connected to more specific revenue targets?
sure. Yeah, in a recent project, the goal was how do we diversify our marketing approach and make sure that we are driving and closing revenue gaps that they were already identifying. So they knew like, hey, we have these broad marketing campaigns. We are actually splitting them by, these are the awareness campaigns that we're running. These are the, ones that are close to purchase. So we're going to send them decision type of messaging, and they were passing things to sales and doing field events. But there was an opportunity instead of just running these broad campaigns to segment accounts. And so what we did is we did a revenue map, and we found 6 categories where we thought we could do pipeline acceleration and what accounts would be the fastest closers and have high intent. So we were using the data that we had at our disposal to start to understand, okay, within 180 days, these accounts usually close. And this is the common segment that they come from. And then we identified like some whales, some like really big accounts that they could do special marketing treatment to. So maybe inviting them to different customer events or doing really high touch white glove marketing activities to try to close those. And then what are some retention plays that we could do? Are there any accounts that are at risk that we can save? And then expansion opportunities. So making sure that we were identifying what accounts were prime for different upsell and cross-sell opportunities. So what we ended up with was a clear marketing approach for each of these segments, and was able to align with sales to ensure that we were supporting revenue in a way, and this is how, is what I'm going to say. So that's really the power of the map. It allows you to outline multiple paths to a goal. It's backed by data, and it gives marketing and sales like a shared playbook to execute. So everyone knows how accounts are being treated, which segments are being treated a certain way, and it's able to be run alongside your broad marketing campaigns.
Yeah. And I would, something I have experienced too is not only all the things you just said, but it's very easy to clearly communicate to leadership when they come and say, hey, what's marketing doing? I
Yes.
don't get those questions, right? Like, hey, what's marketing doing? From the CMO
100%.
to the VP to demand to like all the time. And you're like, you could easily point to, here's what we're doing. We're spending, this much of our budget trying to drive this revenue in this market with these approaches, right?
Yes. Yes. And then it gives them a clear answer, because you could say that, and then I think that gives you that credibility and the clarity, right? So I think there's a lot of themes that we say over and over. It's giving you clarity. It drives collaboration. It gives you credibility in your organization. All of these are like leadership traits that, we're trying to inspire in marketers. And so Kathy, our co-founder and leader, tells marketers, like, no one ever teaches us to plan. Like, you have to learn it on the job.
Yeah. Yes.
So now we're trying to teach marketers. So we're trying to teach marketers. It's not something you just leave a college knowing how to do. So it's a discipline, and there's different approaches. And I think there's no wrong way to plan. I think the right way of planning is bringing teams together, understanding your unique business, and just executing against revenue generating opportunities, and being able to clearly say, here's how I'm going to approach this segment or this market. And here's the benefit towards it. And that connects all of your marketing teams. So you're not doing channel marketing or promotional marketing anymore. You're not doing random active marketing. So yeah, I think it just really is a strategic exercise that really elevates your marketing organization at large.
Yeah. I suppose that's probably one of the biggest resistance that you get when we, start to work with teams on these things too, is that it's uncomfortable, because it's not something if you have an MBA or, you went to school for marketing or whatever, it's not something you learned in school necessarily to do this sort of a level of planning. So talk a little bit about that. What are other things that you see teams like is kind of the barrier to continue moving down this path?
Yeah, I think one of the barriers is the trade-offs that they have to make. So you kind of talked about this a little bit earlier too, like what do we not do? Because everyone wants to do everything. And what it does is the revenue map is forcing you to do that focus, and that can be a little uncomfortable. So we say the solution to that is collaboration. If sales and finance help build it, they'll defend it with you. And you guys have clarity on how to move forward.
Yeah. And if it's documented, we all can sort of like virtually handshake agree on things. Yeah. What is it about marketers and being people pleasers? We
I don't know.
Sometimes say no, don't we? Yes.
Totally. Yes. I don't know what's up to do right there, but it's definitely part of our DNA.
Yes. There's got to be something there. Sure puts us in
that's your next podcast episode.
We're going to figure that out. What makes up a great marketer? Okay. Okay. So some people are probably listening to this going, oh, that sounds all great. Danielle, like I love that. That makes a lot of sense for some people who have maybe good relationships across the organization with these different functions that you're talking about. Like they're regularly meeting with them, or they're talking to them, or they're just good people. But like, what
Mhm.
happens when you can't get those stakeholders sort of at the table, or like, how do you overcome some of that maybe internal tension that might happen?
I think if you just have to start building those relationships by being, like we said, start with curiosity. Don't go in and ask for a bunch of data
Yeah.
without giving them context. So I think really marketing has an opportunity to own the planning process internally, but sometimes starting with a RACI helps. So showing them how they can be involved in the process, when they'll be involved in the process. So part of planning is building that collaborative planning process around it too, which is something else we do at Inverta is, sometimes people already have the plan and now they need to bring all these teams together to execute. But
Yeah.
we also like to make sure that there's a plan in place to actually get the planning done and bringing them in. So I think when people don't want to participate, it's more of like not having visibility. So give them visibility, help them understand why their function is important to the process. And then when they see that they're going to be having input on making assumptions and co-thinking out scenarios, and they have the ability to contribute to the plan, I mean, they co-own it with you then.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think what you'll start to see is, better conversations happening when they know they're going to be part of the process, the cadence for the process, and insight into the questions you're going to be asking and the context in terms of why you're asking,
Yeah.
so that you could build a meaningful revenue generating plan. And at the end of the day, everyone wants to be successful. And if marketing is successful, then the organization is successful. So I think it a lot of it is relationship building, like you said, and forming those connections. I mean, what were some of the things you did when you were in the middle of planning and
Yeah.
building
Yeah.
those relationships with two people?
I mean, that was all. It was just constant conversations and really trying to be proactive in I did a lot of face to face. I ended up,
Cool.
spending a lot of time in the offices or with the individuals I was trying to get that information from early on in the process, because then you can build, like, there's nothing
Yeah.
like sitting knee to knee with somebody to build rapport. Excuse me. And to me, that was a hugely important piece early on. Again,
Mhm.
like year one, we did this. It was, I'm not going to lie, it's a heavy lift to
Yeah.
start. It is a difficult thing to change the way people think about how we plan and the way we do it. To your point, the freedom it gave our teams as the year went on, it just opened that up.
That's amazing. Yeah. I think it builds trust like over time. So I think the more you do those things, it just fosters that trust and that relationship, like you said. And I know, like Ted Lasso was a great example of that with biscuits with the boss. Like, so I think that, you know, if it might be uncomfortable at first. I guess it depends on like what type of person you are, but eventually, you'll see better conversations happening instead of debating tactic. Leadership starts talking about scenarios and debating scenarios. Like, should we put
Yes.
more into expansion versus net new? And you'll start to see fewer last minute requests is probably what your team experienced. Like they
Yeah.
know what they're contributing to, what they're driving toward. I think they can expand more creatively on different campaigns instead of what are we going to build now? What are we going to put out and becoming like the content promotion
Yes.
factory again. I'm going to keep using that as an example, but I think that's really the way it works is like you'll start to get more engagement from the team because they're going to see their priorities reflected in your plan. And so,
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And I think that goes to the dynamic naming of this. Like, we don't call this annual planning, it's dynamic planning, because
it's,
you can do it at any point during the year, but you're always iterating on it. Like, you're always building on it. We would do sort of a rolling
Mhm.
3-month look.
Yes,
I talk to
right.
clients about this a lot, like a rolling 3-month look at what was coming. And so every month you have that MBR, right, with your
Mhm.
stakeholders, even with the marketing organization, take a look at, here's what we've done. We would do a brief look back. Everybody knew
Yes,
what you did for the most part, right? Like, don't spend a lot of time on the look back. The
yes,
look back is for you to reflect and understand what needs to be different because, hey, this channel's not working as well as we thought it was, or, whatever that is. Like,
yes.
channel reporting is for you internally to look at,
Mhm.
not because it's a one-to-one ROI tool, right? Like, don't do that.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yes, show the bright, shiny things because everybody likes the bright, shiny things. But They want to know, what are you doing forward, right?
Yes.
Because they're looking out 3 months going, oh my gosh, my pipeline is really low. I really need to build it.
Mhm.
They need to know how they're going to get to their number. So for us, that worked really well, is to be thinking 3 months sort of rolling
Yes.
ahead. And of course, month 3 today, when it's month 2, will be more robust, as you go
Yes.
forward.
Keeps
So
growing.
you're always building on those things. So to me, that's the dynamic portion of it, and to have that
Yes.
open line of communication and be able to collaborate through that. So
Yeah, that
that's
opens up
great.
like what everyone tries to do in marketing, right? How do we optimize? Like there's different ways you can optimize your plans
Yeah.
now if you have them set up the way they do. And that's one of the reasons why we have the 3 tools to use and why they're independent. It's that they can adjust and refine them at every level. So
Yeah.
if you see things like you start to get indicators of like this isn't working, or yeah, there is a gap in pipeline that we need to look at, then you don't have to go back to the annual plan part. You can still have the same initiatives, but maybe you take a look at your revenue map. Are they the right segments? Are they the right size? Is there a new market we need to go after? So
Yeah.
I like that because you can definitely go back and iterate on different parts of your plan and making sure that you're optimizing it as you reflect on what's working and what's not.
Yeah. All right. So if somebody's listening to this today, they're just starting to get into planning for next fiscal year. Like, what should they do first? Where do they
Yeah,
start?
just start small. Just start. I think what you want to do is pick one initiative. So whether it's growth through expansion or is it going to be
Mm.
retention, because you need to keep and retain your customer base. Do that by building that simple revenue map. Start to pull the teams together. Start asking those questions. What's our target? What's the ACV assumption? What is the LTV potential? What marketing approaches can we employ that will really impact the segment that we are trying to grow or retain? And so then the next part is just share it. Share your plan, commit to it. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
perfect. And the value is really in creating that alignment and clarity. It's not in flawless numbers. So say just try. Start those
Yeah.
conversations. Pick a goal and an initiative and get that planning process going in your organization and start pulling in the key players.
Yeah. Okay. How about to stop guessing? Like, how do we as marketers stop guessing? And where do we start? What's the first thing to go do?
Yeah, I think break your revenue goal down into segments. Start to really understand where growth can come from. Where are your opportunities? How is your business tracking those goals? Because we have marketers don't want to say no. We want to do everything, and we feel
Mhm.
responsible for everything. But starting with that revenue map and breaking down your goals into distinct segments will really help you connect your marketing efforts and help you defend your choices and give you the confidence to say no to distractions. So that's how you stop guessing and really start leading.
Awesome. Well, I am in the show notes today. You'll find links to Inverta's web pages that has a bunch of resources on it to help you with all of this, including
Mhm.
some blogs and write-ups, and even some of the templates and things like that we do provide,
Awesome.
that Danielle has worked on. So yeah, that's fantastic. And certainly reach out to us if you want to talk any more with Danielle or myself or
Yeah.
anybody on our team about any of that planning. So um yeah, Danielle, thank you for being a part of the
Thank you
podcast
so
today. I
much.
really appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully we can get people to stop rolling their eyes when
Love
the
that.
yearly planning cycle begins, and make it more fun and just much more impactful for
Yes.
organizations and for
Great.
marketers. Yeah,
Hopefully this
let's
motivates
get out of,
people and inspires them. Yeah. I want
yeah.
think about planning as like an opportunity to really lead it in your organization and
Mm.
generate that alignment, get that collaboration going and get that clarity and focus for your team and enjoy the process. I really hope
Yeah.
that, you guys give it a shot. And yeah, please reach out with questions, stories. We're always learning. We're always adding to this process based on every company's unique approach. So I would love to hear from
That's great.
everyone.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, Danielle.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Rev Room today. We hope you enjoyed this episode. For more, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Don't forget to follow Inverta on LinkedIn for more updates and exclusive content. That's Inverta, INVERTA. Have a question or a topic you'd like us to cover? Reach out and let us know. Until next time, keep innovating and driving that revenue growth. See you next time.